Live every day as if it were the last, because before you know it, time goes past and life's just not that long. Tell all you love that you love them so, because even if you do, they might not know, and one day we'll all be gone.
My longtime close friend who lived in Albuquerque for many, many years and then moved back to Wyoming where he grew up, my longtime close friend accused his brother's wife of killing his brother after his brother died suddenly of suicide. My close friend had no evidence whatever of his brother's wife killing his brother. I urged my close friend to apologize and to do his part to heal his relationship with his brother's family. My close friend suffered hell for years from diabetes, kidney disease, dialysis. But as far as I know, my close friend died refusing to apologize, refusing to do his part to heal his relationship with his brother's family. How terribly sad. Whenever his brother's wife, his older nephew, his niece think of my close friend, a dark cloud over their memory of him. Another longtime close friend in his upper 80s, like millions of people, has hoarded mountains of stuff. He has hoarded mountains of stuff he does not need, mountains of stuff he does not use, mountains of stuff he will never use. He has spent thousands of dollars for years to store all this stuff. If my friend does not get rid of these mountains of stuff before he dies, what an awful burden for the person in charge of my friend's affairs to sort through, give away, throw away the mountains of stuff. We can learn so much from our close friends' mistakes in life. And anyone who learns from my past mistakes, anyone who learns from my present mistakes, power to you. For thousands of years, tribes of people across the earth each believed they were God's pets, God's favorites. Tribes of people have believed they could pray and receive God's help to conquer and kill other tribes. Millions of Christians believe God will sentence billions of people who are not Christians to never-ending torture in hell with no pardon, no parole. Happily, not all Christians believe that, but many do. Millions of Jews believe they are God's #1 chosen people. Millions of Jews believe God gave Palestine to them, especially after the Holocaust that killed 6 million Jews. And their rights as Jews, they believe, come before the Palestinians, who are treated often like shit and worse by the Israeli government. I compliment many thousands of Jews who do not believe that. Many thousands of Jews who support full, equal human rights for Palestinians, I compliment them highly. Millions of Europeans came to North America believing their rights were more important than the Native Americans who lived here for thousands of years. And many of those European invaders believed they had a God-given right to take over the land and to kill, to rob as they pleased. One evil excuse European invaders used to justify their mass murder of Native American people was how common sex between men was in some tribes. In Europe, many men having sex with men were burned to death at the stake. We enjoy using our hands to work, to garden, to play musical instruments, to prepare and eat meals, to pleasure our genitals, to make love with other people. But if we pay federal income tax, we pay to destroy other people's hands in Gaza and many nations, as the U.S. sadly has done for decades under both Republican and Democrat presidents. We enjoy seeing flowers, sunsets, trees, mountains, written words, loved ones, attractive bodies. But if we pay federal income tax, we pay to blind people, from little kids to old people in Gaza and many other nations that the U.S. has murdered in war. If we pay federal income tax, we pay to severely burn babies and to rip open the flesh of grandpas and grandmas. We enjoy walking, running, dancing, but if we pay federal income tax, we pay to tear apart the feet of children who will never run again. We enjoy having in our homes our favorite clothes, treasured photos, special keepsakes, protection from the cold and storms, a place to feel safe with our loved ones. But if we pay federal income tax, we pay to bomb other people's homes in Gaza and many other places. And this is what Lockheed Martin, this is what Kirtland Air Force Base, this is what Sandia Weapons Lab, this is what Los Alamos Weapons Labs and federal income tax are about. The maiming, the mutilation, the murder of multitudes of our sisters and brothers in Gaza and other nations. The main purpose of the U.S. empire is to make sure that most people in this country, especially the large corporations and filthy rich elite, keep stealing and hogging the wealth of the world. The United States routinely supports bloody regimes that bow to Wall Street and the U.S. Pentagon, allowing U.S.-based corporations to rob their nation's peoples of their resources and their labor. A good way to refuse to pay federal income tax, to rob, to terrorize, to paralyze, to cripple, to blind, to torture, to make homeless, to murder our sisters and brothers with no fines and no threats from the government is to live simply below the federal income taxable level. I have paid no federal income tax, not one damn bloody penny, for 45 years. And I pledge never to do so the rest of my days. I have no right to pay tax to do to other people what I do not want them to do to me. I have lived well for many years below the federal income taxable level. The U.S. government spends for war more than the next highest 9 nations combined. And you think the United States is a peace-loving country? One-third to one-half of U.S. federal income tax goes for U.S. wars. Past wars, because part of the national debt is because of past wars of this country abroad. Present wars, like in Gaza. Future wars, and for nuclear weapons. The head of France, many years ago, Napoleon, said, now get this, especially if you have loved ones who are considering going into the military, or if you're deciding to go into the military. Napoleon, the head of France, said, if my soldiers knew the truth and what they're fighting for, they would walk off the battlefield. Imagine if the U.S. president said that. All governments lie, especially in times of war. George Bernard Shaw said, patriotism is your conviction that this country is superior to all other countries. Why? Because you were born in it. How crazy, how stupid. Patriotism is a pernicious, psychopathic form of idiocy, said George Bernard Shaw. Albert Einstein said, our textbooks glorify war and conceal, cover up its horrors. He said, I would teach peace rather than war, love rather than hate. Einstein said, how despicable war is. It's my conviction that killing under the cloak of war is nothing more than an act of murder. Have you ever read any of this in school? Have you heard any of this on news shows now in this country, radio, TV? King of Prussia, not Russia, but the King of Prussia, Frederick the Great, said, if my soldiers were to begin to sink, not one of them would remain in the army. Henry David Thoreau said, it's impossible to give a soldier a good education without making him a deserter. His natural enemy is the government that drills him. Jack London, the U.S. writer, said, young men, the lowest aim in your life is to become a soldier. The good soldier never tries to distinguish right from wrong. He never thinks, never reasons. He only obeys. His mind, his conscience are in the keeping of his officer. Robots, pawns. Very sad. Slaves to the government. And many come back in body bags, or if they're alive, crippled or traumatized, with nightmares, sometimes until they die. I grew up on our farm in Illinois, 100 miles west of Chicago. I went to a one-room country school, one teacher for grades 1 through 6. And when I was in first grade, at least one time, it's a hazy memory, I sat next to sixth grader Roger Malataka to share a music book. Not enough books for everyone to have one. And I felt a special attraction to tall, dark, Italian sixth grade Roger. I was just a first grader in this mostly white community. Now, I did not fantasize about sex with Roger. I did not know about those wonderful pleasures, male with male. But I felt a special, cozy, at-home magnetism for him. I don't know if Roger, as he grew older, was gay, bisexual, straight. He moved away. Sadly, I do not know if Roger is alive or dead. When I was 12, teenager David worked short-free on our farm. I was very attracted to him. But I didn't know there were gay people in the world. In high school, when certain male athletes came into the library where I was, the invisible spotlight of my attention focused on them. I needed them, but they apparently did not feel the same toward me. 2 male-female couples in my class got pregnant before graduation. Now, I'm glad I did not have a child to parent, but I envied them. Why? For having sex. Because I'd never had sex with any other human being besides myself. No teacher in high school, no teacher in college told me many well-known men, past and present, were gay or bisexual, enjoying sex and romance with men. Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Walt Whitman, Baird Rustin, Langston Hughes, and multitudes more. Now, if you're black or brown or native or Asian, how would you feel if your teachers never once spoke about well-known black or brown or native or Asian people, but only about white people? If you're a woman, how would you feel if your teachers never spoke about well-known women, past or present, only about men? And after I became a sincere young Christian preacher at age 20, I became friends with many teenage Chicano guys in that town, Sterling, Illinois, and across the river Rock Falls. And some of these Chicano teenagers told me of girls they liked, girls they dated. I envied them for having sex with girls. I never had, even though I was older than they were. I had no openly gay or bisexual friends. I knew several Bible verses condemned sex between men, but the same Bible, sadly, in hundreds of verses, supported war. Men killing men and women and children in war. Many Bible verses supported that. And the same Bible also supported slavery. Many verses. Many verses. I did not know that millions of men, past and present, have been in love with men, made love with men in passionate romance. I found out years later, even David and Jonathan in the Bible were in love with each other. But I don't think any teacher in my Bible courses in Illinois, I went to college in Virginia. I don't think any teacher of those Bible courses ever even hinted that David and Jonathan in the Bible were in love with each other. And later in my 20s, when I was no longer a pastor, I told my mother I wanted to have sex with someone. I assumed it would be with a woman, but who? I had never seriously dated a woman. And later, I drove my one and only car that I ever owned from Albuquerque to Juarez, Mexico. I had sex with a woman sex worker there. First time in my life with another human being. But I had so looked forward to this. I came before I would have entered her. I was so eager. I had waited for years. How sad that in my 20s I felt I had to go to another nation and pay a pimp to have sex with a woman I was not attracted to have sex with another human being for my first time. Sad. My Spanish was not good. Her English was not good. It was far from romantic for her, far from romantic for me. And later, I had sex with a couple women in Albuquerque. One young woman in Sterling, Illinois, where I had been pastor years before. And one night at the Latin American Social Club there in Sterling, Illinois, I danced with this young woman, Connie. She said she might not live long. She wanted sex with me. I knew she was living with a man, so I asked her, well, what about Wally? And she said they were liberated. They were free to have sex with other people. I told my dear friend Johnny, who has since died of prostate cancer, I told my dear friend Johnny that night, Johnny Sotelo, about the situation. And he said he thought she was lonely, and whatever happens, happens. I went to her place after the dance. Her boyfriend was not home. She and I had sex, and after sex, while I was still lying naked in their bed, she kept going to the window watching for her boyfriend to come home. And when he came, she went after him. Where had he been? Doing what? With whom? I was still lying naked in their bed. Her boyfriend came into the bedroom. He saw me. He was probably kind of shocked to see me there. He knew of me. As I said, I had been a pastor in that town years before. I pretended to be asleep. I'm glad he did not start hitting me and attacking me. They kept arguing, the two of them, going after each other. And finally, they both went to sleep in other rooms. And as the dawn came, I put on my clothes. I left as a wiser man. I learned that some people who say they are sexually liberated are not sexually liberated. Hell no. Still hung up on jealousy and trying to cage the other person. Do not be conned as I was. Actually, I was sexually attracted to two of Connie's brothers, but I never had sex with them. For many years, while my parents were still living, I lived part-time there in Illinois with them on the farm, and part-time here in Albuquerque. In late 1976, my friends Steve and Cease here in Albuquerque told me they wanted to take me to a place I might like. And they took me to a gay bar on Central, which is now I guess back then it was the Heights Lounge, and now it's the Albuquerque Social Club. And never had I before been in a gay bar. Never. I met a young Chicano from Cuba, New Mexico at that bar. He and I had sex at my place. My first time with any male in my life. I was 31. And soon after I told my mother, she said she had never known there were gay people in the world. I had feared losing my many straight friends, male friends, here in Albuquerque if I came out openly as a gay man. And one of them did get very upset and offended. He backed off from me. He turned cold. But years later, I'm glad to say, he apologized to me for having turned away from our friendship. And since that first sex with a man 47 years ago, I had sex with many men, dozens of men in Albuquerque, Chicago, San Diego, New York City, Madison, Wichita, Peoria, San Antonio, Ohio, and on our Illinois farm. I tasted romance with some men. Bisexual Jose from Mexico, I met when he was 23 at the Spence Hot Springs at Jemez. I had sex more often with Jose than any other man in my life. Over 70 times. I kept track. I deeply loved Jose. But sadly, he got involved with drugs. He was locked up. His green card was taken away. Jose was sent back to Mexico. And dear Roberto died of AIDS at 31. I chose my plot at San Jose de Armijo Cemetery close to his grave. Roberto was not his given name. My beloved Don died in a car crash at 25. His mother had me in charge of his memorial service. Another Don from Taos Pueblo in northern New Mexico. David from Michigan. His father was Palestinian, his mother Northern European. And David was the first man in my life I wept sucking his toes as we had sex in the beautiful outdoors in Ohio. I danced with David at a street dance in Freeport, Illinois. Our farm was 6 miles from Freeport. And no one, and this is back in 1986, and no one threatened us. No one attacked us. And later that evening, David and I went to Rockford, Illinois, to a Mexican bar where a friend from Sterling, Illinois, a Chicano friend, was playing in the band. It was not a gay bar, a Mexican bar. David and I danced together at that bar. And again, no one threatened us. No one beat us up. 1986. Often we hold the keys to our own prisons. We assume that people will freak out and we're scared, terrified. And if we are, and there are some places in the country that can be dangerous, no question. But if we know there are openly gay people living their lives in a place, and we are totally free in ourselves with no shame, no fear, no guilt about being gay or bisexual or lesbian, often that unlocks the door to being free in public. And before my mother died in 1982, I often told her about my having sex with men. And once she told me she wished she could be a mouse in the corner. And what she meant was to watch me have sex with a man. Sadly, that never happened. I wish it had. I introduced her to Jaime, a young gay Chicano in Houston, Texas, where I had taken her for medical help. She suffered so much. And there was a nutrition doctor, a medical doctor who specialized in nutrition in Houston. And we went there 3 different times from Illinois. Jaime, the young gay Chicano from Houston, deeply impressed my mother, but he and I never became lovers. We never had sex. In the 1970s, when I was in Illinois, I wrote to my friend Patty Quintana here in Albuquerque, Martineztown, telling her I'm gay. And she wrote me back a good letter saying she knew I am gay from the first day she met me years before. And when I was here in Albuquerque, I wrote to my friend Lupio Laldi in Illinois telling him I'm gay, and he wrote me back a good letter saying he knew I was gay from the first day he met me years before. Often friends of gay or bisexual persons know years before the gay or bisexual persons come out, if they ever do. I would rather be hated, I would rather be rejected by some people for who I am than be loved by them for living a lie. My mother taught me to tell the truth. She hated lies. She hated bullshit. And part of the reason I'm, as far as I know, the most well-known openly gay man in this city is my mother's emphasis on the truth. And as far as I know, I'm the most well-known former sincere Christian preacher, no longer a believer in a fair, loving parent God. I no longer believe that. Again, my mother's emphasis on telling the truth and standing up for what I believe and what I do not believe anymore. I treasure my strong sexual and romantic attraction to certain men. Life is too precious to fake. Romance is too precious to hide. Now, if you're just coming out, bisexual, gay, lesbian, tell adult friends you know and trust who have openly gay or bisexual or lesbian friends. But if you're under 18 and you know your parents are strongly against being gay or bisexual or lesbian, you may need to wait until you are at least 18 and can move out before you tell your parents. And of course, some parents who are absolutely anti-gay, years later wake up and accept their children who are gay, bisexual, or lesbian. But sadly, some never do. Get 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. Not enough sleep demolishes our immune system. Not enough sleep doubles our risk of cancer. Not enough sleep sets us up for dementia and Alzheimer's. Not enough sleep can cause heart disease and strokes. Not enough sleep can make people fat, because in trying to make up for the lack of sleep, a lot of people then hog out on junk food. Not enough sleep can lead to depression, anxiety, suicide. I strongly recommend the book Why We Sleep, Why We Sleep, by Matthew Walker. It's in our library, public library. It's the best book I know of about how important enough sleep is to be healthy in our bodies and our minds. Besides 7 to 9 hours every night, and I go to bed usually between 9 and 10, sometimes very soon after 9. I get up at 6 or a bit before. And I don't sleep every bit of that time by any means, but if I'm awake, I'm resting, thinking. But besides 7 to 9 hours every night, a nap, a siesta in the early afternoon, 20 minutes to an hour, helps us to be healthy. Very good for our hearts and for us to live long. Prescription drugs, some diseases can keep older people from getting the sleep they need. Enough sleep helps our memory. Enough sleep makes us more creative. Enough sleep helps how we look to be more attractive. Enough sleep protects us from cancer and dementia. Enough sleep keeps us lean and slim. Enough sleep lowers the risk of heart attack and stroke and diabetes. Enough sleep helps us to be happier, less depressed, less anxious, easier to get along with. Enough sleep helps prevent colds, flu, and COVID-19. Driving when sleepy is more dangerous than driving drunk. And sadly, I, Don Schrader, many years ago, foolishly drove sleepy many times. No wonder my mother worried so much that I would crash. If I had my life to live over, knowing what I know now, I would aim never to drive sleepy. I could have killed and injured other people and myself. I strongly oppose driving when sleepy or driving after drinking booze. I drink no booze. And I haven't driven a vehicle for over 23 years. I wouldn't keep a car if you gave me one free and paid me to drive it. Not enough sleep can worsen PTSD and schizophrenia and all mental illness. The epidemic of not enough sleep is one of the worst health problems in the United States and in other industrialized nations. Nothing can substitute for enough sleep. Now, we need to eat only healthy raw plant foods. We need to walk and to exercise much. We need sunshine on our naked skin. We need close friendships. We need to forgive ourselves and to forgive others. We need to apologize and ask forgiveness. But none of these can substitute for enough sleep if we want to live long and healthy. Aim for 7 to 9 hours in bed every night, no exceptions. And never consider yourself lazy. Never consider others lazy for getting enough sleep to feel good and to be healthy. I strongly support equal rights for any woman to be top-free in public, as I am, when warm enough, if that woman wants to be top-free in public. Imagine we went to a town where everyone always wore cloth covering their ears, even in hot weather. We never saw anyone with bare ears in public. You could get fired. You could get thrown in jail, laughed at, cursed, beaten up, branded as a dangerous pervert, if you showed your naked ears in public? Why are these people ashamed and afraid of seeing bare ears in public? Why this weird taboo? In our society, the same is true of naked cocks, balls, asses, vaginas, female breasts. Why the crazy, sick hang-ups about these precious, pleasurable parts of our bodies? Why is it legal to show rifles, shotguns, revolvers, nuclear missiles in public, but not our naked, whole bodies? When I'm warm enough, I enjoy living as naked in public as the law and the weather allow. I do not want to be cold. I do not want to risk getting arrested or beaten up, but to live as naked in public as the law and the weather allow. Our genitals are not obscene. War, racism, nuclear bombs, rape, revenge, greed, grudges, violent sports are obscene. I treasure sunbathing naked on many winter days. If there are no clouds, no winds, I have 2 private spots in our backyard that I enjoy greatly. When my mother and my father were alive, I was often naked as an adult in their presence. I have photos my mother took of me naked as an adult. And for those of you who believe God created the human body, why would any inch of the body be indecent or obscene if you believe God created the body? Sadly, most religious people suffer from body shame and addiction to wearing clothes. Most religious people act as if God created the head, the arms, the hands, but that old devil slapped on the genitals and possibly even the torso and the legs. Sadly, most U.S. jobs require covering most of the body, even in the summer. Business suits, uniforms, etc. Most U.S. jobs enforce rigid conformity, reject body freedom, reject natural comfort, reject environmental sanity. What are the horrendous consequences? Massive electricity squandered on air conditioning, worsening the climate crisis, the vast farmland and poison pesticides to grow more cotton for those clothes that we do not need in hot weather, the petrochemicals for synthetic fabrics, grueling sweatshop labor for all those extra clothes not needed in hot weather, tons of deodorant, billions of dollars wasted. Is this sanity? Is this progress? Hell no. For thousands of years, many native peoples worldwide had the good sense to put clothes on when it's cold and to take off most or all clothes when warm enough. I want always to be open to make wise changes in how I live. I do not want to get stuck in ruts. I do not want to keep doing something just because I've always done it that way for many years. I've made many huge changes in my 78 years. I want to stay ready to make more changes until the day I die if I learn wiser new ways or wiser old ways to live. And many people have taught me, many people have loved me, many people have inspired me, a great variety of people. Different ages, different backgrounds, different colors. I'm deeply indebted to all of them. I collect wisdom to live it. Wisdom on how to live and wisdom on how not to live. And to share that wisdom with anyone interested. Mothers and fathers, do your sons and daughters of all ages feel and know they can tell you the full truth about their lives, and you will still love them deeply, regardless how much you disagree? Mothers and fathers, do you tell your sons and daughters the full truth about your lives? Do you welcome all their honest personal questions? People's addiction to eating meat, cheese, milk, ice cream cause at least 1/3 of the catastrophic climate crisis. I eat no meat, no dairy. A meat eater uses many times more land for their food than someone who eats only plant foods. Fruit, vegetables, greens, seeds, nuts, grains, beans. Raising animals for meat and dairy takes an enormous amount of water for the animals to drink and to grow the crops for them to eat. Protein from eating meat and dairy requires more than 11 times more gas and other fossil fuel than getting the same amount of protein from grain. Animals raised for food in the United States produce many times more shit than all the people in the United States. And runoff of shit from factory farms pollute rivers and lakes. Many fish contain poison chemicals from the polluted waters of lakes and rivers. Chickens, pigs, turkeys, fish, cows are intelligent social animals who can suffer and feel pain and fear, just as we humans, just as dogs and cats are pets. And billions of animals are imprisoned, mutilated, violently killed by the United States meat, dairy, and egg industries every year. I stopped eating meat, dairy, and eggs many years ago. No God helped and heard millions murdered in the Nazi concentration camps and gas ovens. 6 million Jews, plus gypsies, gays, handicapped people, communists, Jehovah's Witnesses, murdered in the concentration camps and the gas ovens. And many of those people, those millions, prayed desperately to God for help, but no help came. So why would I, Don Schrader, expect God to hear and help me? Jesus said, "Not one sparrow will fall to the ground without your Father's will. You are of more value than many sparrows." but are the disasters, the atrocities suffered by millions for thousands of years according to God the Father's will? Millions have begged God for help from earthquakes, floods, fires. Millions have begged God for help from tornadoes, family violence, rape. Millions have begged God for help from hurricanes, cancer, torture. Millions have begged God for help for thousands of years from starvation, from war. And Jesus promised that God will help those who pray. Well, no matter how well-intentioned he was, if he said those words, he was wrong. It simply is not true. He may have been delusional, wanting to believe what wasn't true. I was a very sincere young preacher 57 years ago. For many years I prayed to, I preached about, I sang about God, my imaginary friend. I swallowed, I spread feel-good make-believe about God. But with the help of many people, I slowly woke up. I was wrong. I apologize. I wish we had a fair, loving, real parent God to help all people who desperately pray for help. But wanting that does not make it so. I thank very much Mark, Eddie, Travis for their excellent help running the cameras, running the controls many dozens of times for months for this program. And I thank you who watch and listen. I welcome you to talk with me if you see me and if you want to talk with me. I love personal questions, and I mean that. It's not bullshit. I love heart-to-heart conversations, the more real, personal, and deep, the better. I drink my fresh piss for health almost every day for many years. Warm hugs to all of you who enjoy hugs, to all of you who want my hugs, warm hugs. Thank you.
Tell all you love that you love them so, because even if you do, they might not know, and one day we'll all be gone. Taste the wind, don't let it blow on by. Sing songs of love, let the music get you high, and when it's said and done, you'll know the sun will shine on. And when it's said and done, you'll know the sun will shine on. And when it's said and done, you'll know the sun